it's hope, isn't it?
Yep.
And the thing is, as we're all emerging, people are getting to do kind of new things, and you're starting something new as well. It's a podcast, Vanishing Ireland. Are you getting in on a true crime podcast? Things like, what's going on?
Well, a person could be provoked here and there over the last few months. No, this is something much more interesting. I was actually delighted to get the opportunity to be associated with this, because only in the last week I had the opportunity of meeting Turtle Bunbury. But I have been for many, many years a big fan, and I have most of his books, and I have very much enjoyed the way he has brought history into our domain, brought it in visually, and yet maintained the purity of it and the science of history. And so when I was asked to have a very minor collaboration in this podcast, where he is collecting the stories of what I suppose are now called the elderly. I seem to recall getting involved in a minor skirmish in my previous job when somebody in an accident was described at 54 as elderly. I think I was 54 at the time. However, pushing 70 now, I can hardly complain, although I know many sprightly septuagenarians and octogenarians and a few nonos as well. But they have many of them have very interesting stories to tell. Lots of life's experiences. You don't live that long and get through it without having a lot of resilience. And I think that's quite important for what we've all come through now. And because youngsters, particularly, a lot of teenagers and young people have suffered a great deal. Quite a lot of the older people. But hey, they've suffered it before. So it's a lovely opportunity, and it's a very nice intergenerational thing too, because I think one of the striking things, I am a childless person, but I was very struck by how many youngsters talked about how much they missed seeing their grandparents, and the grandparents how much, and the great-grandparents how much they missed seeing them. And it was quite striking, really, and it was quite moving in its way. So this gives the youngsters and the young people an opportunity to nominate, ask please, don't just nominate, family members, friends, neighbours, people over 70 who wish to participate, and we will hear their voices and their experiences. And it's Super Value are sponsoring it, and they have a great track record in this because they do the tiny towns. They have a lot of intergenerational involvement. So it was a kind of serendipity for me. The odd day you get lucky.
I know, and it's one thing I really regret not recording my father, stories about him from his youth before he passed away. I think this is such a lovely idea to kind of have that insight into a different world.
I totally regret this. I had an experience just very recently. A friend of mine down in Androscourthy, Maria Nolan, has written a book which is basically a part fictional version of a family, but with fairly sound history. And she sent me a copy. In the first 6-7 pages, it talked about Breens, carriage makers, who had the rock factory on the Slaney. And I knew they were related to me, but related to ours, my father's side of the family. And I rang one of my brothers, and he knew a bit more about it. He knew for sure that. But I said, why didn't we ask someone? And it's too late now. So it should add hugely to our stock of knowledge and lore, as well as being a very kind of useful and good venture. And I think Turtle hopes that it will stretch into the schools, etc. So, I applaud it. And I'm going to enjoy it.
Absolutely.